I am the the actual main source of entertainment this morning. Why am I the main character this morning? What topic am I going to discuss? Well, I don't usually do one talking about specifically about the platforms that I'm streaming to. But I saw something over the last few days that seems kind of petty, and I hope I don't get in trouble with this platform for talking about this stuff. But I think YouTube kind of needs to learn a little bit of a lesson here. Okay. To start, I started uploading my stuff to YouTube. It's been about 6 months now, I think. And I've made some upward momentum, but not much. It's very minimal. Um, and I haven't been the most consistent per se with like weekly schedules or whatever or daily schedules, but I've been on here at minimum every other day. Okay, uploading content, doing streams, etc., etc. That netted me precisely goose egg amounts of dollars. Right now, I'm not saying this is all about the money for me, but when you dump money into a thing, seeing a return investment makes you feel better. Which kind of has just happened a little bit, but sometimes that little bit is just enough, okay? And yes, it's under $1, okay? And I understand that a lot of bigger channels out there are going to sit there and kind of chuckle at the prospect that I'm a 6 month old channel on YouTube and I just now got under $1. Well, I'm going to stop you right there. Number one, that wasn't from YouTube, it was from Rumble. And this one's going to get me in trouble with YouTube, I have a feeling. I'm going to continually upload my content to both locations until I receive a court order telling me to cease and desist. Um, so yes, my YouTube audience is going to receive basically at its core until we get to the point of having paid subscribers. At its core is going to be receiving the same content as Rumble and Kick. Well, Kick is kind of an exception. As far as I can tell, I haven't found the option to upload video hosting, like straight up just videos, not streams, to Kick. That could just be um, that could just be my own lack of knowledge about Kick itself, which wouldn't surprise me any. um, but back to the main point. This is the why pick a platform speech. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. At this point in time, you should not be playing brand pony for different platforms. Period. Um, you should be doing what you need to do to make your channel successful. And at this point in time, playing video games is showing a little bit of success, but I do definitely feel like showing people that just because you're a gamer doesn't mean you can't go enjoy other things. And because of that, and because of the change in the weather and the increase in temperatures with the summer, we're going to be investing in getting a GoPro and doing outdoor stuff. It might just be me going down to the local fishing pond and doing some fishing. You might set up a camera somewhere for streaming on like my dashboard or something, and you might even see me jump in the lake. Who knows? Um, maybe it'll be a exploring the swimming holes in my state kind of thing. But it'll be what it is, okay? Um, my point is that this. Yes, it's just a graph. It's just a chart. It's just a number right now. But seeing that I'm actually making even a dent. I'll put it to you this way in video game terms. It's you walk up to a boss and the damage number isn't zero. Okay? I mean, sure, it only took a sliver, but then your brain can kind of start sitting there and stewing in the fact that, oh my god, I just did 100 points of damage on a boss that I'm supposed to be hitting a fat fucking goose egg. Um, it shows that it can be done. And because it can be done, you feel encouraged to do it, is the mentality, right? It means that you're on the right track. You just have to invest more time into doing thing, right? So that's what we're gonna do. This is going to be the only stream that you see today because this weekend and weekends are supposed to be designated for spending time with my daughter. And I do intend to be doing that today, but the weather's gonna kind of play a little factor in that, and I don't know what it's actually supposed to do today. Um, you know, it is what it is. But moving forward, we are going to start. Well, number one, we have to reinvest the money into water. Reinvest the money into getting the equipment, right? Like, I can't record in the rain if my camera isn't waterproof to some degree, right? Using my cell phone isn't really an option as. Thank you. As, I don't like using my only form of communication outside of yelling, basically. Um, and running its battery down um, when I might need it for some sort of emergency, right? Like, I'm out in the woods recording. Well, hey, guess what? I don't want to be out there recording on a cell phone that I'm actively using as a part of, you know, as a part of an emergency kit, for example, like my daily phone is, my personal phone. Now, if I had the money, if I had $100, okay, and I'm not begging for money, we actually might invest in this of our own accord because it has other benefits as well. I would go out and I'd buy a Samsung Galaxy or a Samsung S20, probably the FE model with 5G, but I'd also demand that it have the 4G LTE stuff. And the reason I would do that is to see if I could do streaming from my phone using a Bluetooth camera of some kind that is also waterproof. I'd have to dump this phone into like a waterproof OtterBox or something, right? And having it all set up in such a way that I can show you guys first person perspective on doing stuff like a bow drill set or building a lean-to or doing stuff like that. Uh, and I got the idea, thank you, Corporal, of like doing the first person perspective because I have the face that belongs on radio. And for those of you who are too young to know what radio is where you can hear a thing and not see a thing. It is one of our oldest forms of quote-unquote entertainment that are not live entertainment. Actually, they are. But they're broadcasted over these little devices that didn't have screens in them. Like everything we have now, including toasters, today has a screen in it. Things keep going the way that they are. Someone's probably going to make a temporary tattoo that operates off of nano suction cups that you can strap to your backside and you can turn your backside into a TV or something stupid. Alright? Far be it for me, actually, if you had small enough technology, you probably could make that work. But, jokes aside, it would be very beneficial for the channel, I think, to not only go out and show that survival priorities do exist. There's a certain amount of lie to the all you need to survive is a knife and a ferro rod and some food and water and a shelter, right? I'll tell you a little story about myself, and it will kind of explain where I'm going with this and why I am all about that gaming life, but also religious and believe in survivalism and how they all come in together as a cohesive unit. When I was in about 6th grade, okay, I was told by my dad that I was allowed to watch like maybe 2 hours of TV a day, and I had a half an hour of video games per day. That was it. Okay? And the rest of the time I had to spend outside. Well, here's the thing. As a kid, less so as an adult, my brain worked inverted. And I think this is a mild form of autism, okay? I wasn't so creative as a kid. I didn't know what I could make, or I didn't think about how I could take a rock and turn it into a knife and carve wooden figures or any of that stuff, right? I was just a stupid kid who didn't know any better, typical white boy, basically. So my dad bought me a bicycle. Lo and behold, as soon as I saw the bicycle and started to understand the mechanics of it, I started to do stupid stunts with it, going no hands for a half a mile on a dirt road that was covered in basically gravel rocks, little chip rocks, doing jumps, just doing general stupid stunts, right? Okay. So, at some point, just like not even a full month before I went to come back to Maine from Alaska to visit family, I decided out of sheer boredom, I found this perfect little mud puddle that ramped off into a gully, and it looked like the sickest jump ever. And it was. I got a good 3-4 feet out of it. Not too terrible. The problem was the landing. Okay. So this culvert was sticking out a little bit more. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, yeah, I can clear it. And I did the first 3 or 4 times I did. It was about the 4th or 5th time that I didn't. Well, my front tire caught the bent top part was bent like this. My tire catches here and axe handles me over my own handlebars. I land catching myself with my hands like this, and I break my left. It was my right arm. It was a hairline fracture, but it put me in a cast for the entirety of the summer. Until my grandpa Leroy, God rest his soul, cut the cast off of me because he saw it was just making me miserable, and they just wrapped it in basically sports wrapping tape, and I just changed the wrapping tape every so often, and it was great because I could do things. I just couldn't put a lot of weight on it, but I could take the wrapping tape off and go swimming, and it just made my summer so much better. And it's one of the moments in my life that make me actually respect and love my grandfather more than just about every member in my family, because he did that for me. And you know what? Healed up just fine. But how does this relate to survivalism, religion, and all of that? Boredom can be the most dangerous thing in a survival situation. Meaning your brain can only sit idle for so long unless you have like a lot of discipline of the mind. Okay? And that same discipline of the mind relates to a religious aspect that's taught in Buddhism, Christianity, and to some degree in Satanism as well, and that is you have to be able to restrain that want to do something. Now, why do I think gaming has a place in survivalism? Well, Think about it. Yes, you can get bored in gaming, but humor me for a minute. You're in a zombie apocalypse, you have a bicycle. You have a video game situation on your hands where you have stable, like a Nintendo Switch with a solar panel, right? Or maybe even the Switch 2 that's coming out, and everyone's kind of ragging on it because it's price tag, and I'm sitting here like that's a pretty normal gaming console price to this day and age, right? And I'm sure there's gonna be some oh, but the graphics chud in my friggin' chat or some shit like that, right? I don't care. I really don't care. That's not the point. The point is that it's a battery operated system, just like a laptop or a Steam Deck, that you can charge off of a solar panel. Or, could you give me a hand, baby, for just a minute?
What's up?
I need that green brick from that. What's that? A hat? No, that's my other headphones. I just need the brick. Could you hold the tablet, please?
That's what I'm doing.
And there goes the other thing. It's kind of a mess over there. It's my catch-all area. Or you're using the solar panel to charge one of these. I'm not endorsed by Swiss Tech. And this model with the solar panel that's built into the thing, the solar panel is kind of junk. Well, no, this one actually works. Actually, they all work. The problem is how fast versus how slow they charge. Now, there again, I'm going to stop myself and say that is one small ass solar panel. Okay? What I'm actually referring to is something like the bigger fold out from Renogy that we have, charging this battery and then using this battery to charge the Switch. Okay? If you're in a zombie apocalypse, and let's say there's a horde rolling through, it's raining out, you have all of your survival stuff, like your food and water for the next couple of days, and going outside with a slingshot and pegging the horde in the head with some friggin' ball bearings is just a really bad idea, because eventually they're going to figure out that, there's food raining pellets down on them, and, we can go get food, right? So it's safer to stay inside at that point and just play the video games. And I know there's a religious precept in the book of Proverbs that says only a fool stays in and is lazy all day and says, but there's a lion outside. My point is that if you have everything else done and you can't do anything else and you're literally stuck sitting there twiddling your thumbs, what's the one thing that you don't want to do? Stupidity through boredom. Okay? So many times. And by the way, Pal World, best example of this ever. When you have to wait a really long time for a crafting meter because you didn't set your base up with the right pals, right? Or the research station. So you're sitting there like, what can I do while I wait for this 3-minute timer to go down? So, if you're playing with my setup where your keyboard and mouse is not in fact on a desk, your desk is integrated with a chair, you go to get up. Well, you get up and you click a button, you move your mouse, or you do a thing that then removes your character from crafting whatever it is you're working on. You come back and 10 minutes later, and you still have to wait the 3 minutes that you had remaining. So, yeah. It's the same thing, but it can be so much worse in a survival situation. Let's say I'm car camping, okay? I bring like a week's worth of food, enough water to last a lifetime. Well, not really a lifetime, but I have, the filter tabs. Heat's not a problem because of the car, or maybe I have the stuff to build fires and all that jazz, right? Or I know how to start a fire without the stuff to build one. Well, at that point, if I'm just sitting there staring out the glass of a windshield, me personally, after about a half an hour of that, I'm going to be looking for something to do. Now, if that something is carving a spear for spear chucking, for example, because it's a thing to do, and a lot of people say that's not a race thing. I actually know how to throw a spear as a white person. It is very easy to learn. It's very hard to do. Um, and to do properly. You can learn all the proper body movements, the weight distribution, where to balance the spear on the spear itself, how to hold the spear, the proper throwing posture. You can learn all that stuff and still mess it up at every turn because your body is different. Every body has little minute differences that alter the equation on properly throwing a spear the right way. Okay? But that's not the point. The point is that you're doing this thing for a distraction. You're not actually doing it for hunting purposes, or maybe you're training yourself up to do it for hunting purposes, which is fine. But, and humor me, if you're sitting inside on a rainy day and you decide to go out and huck a sphere, and you're about 150 miles away or more from a hospital or even civilization, and you don't have necessarily the ability to drive back, or something happens to where you can't, and you decide to go out in that rainy, cold weather and get pneumonia by hucking a spear in the rain, and you get back in that car not realizing, oh, gee, my body has pneumonia, because you don't know this until it's too late. You get your first sneeze, it progresses into a cold, and then, bam, pneumonia. And then you go to start your car to go back home, and the battery's dead. Okay, what purpose did that little bit of entertainment of hucking that spear cause? Nothing. In fact, you've actually hindered your ability to survive more by going out and doing that just out of sheer boredom than anything else. So, having something along like a battery pack and a Nintendo Switch and maybe a solar panel on a good sunny day so you can recharge your goods might not be the worst idea ever. And, it doesn't have to be a Nintendo Switch. Go back in time to, I'm trying to think about which one had a good charge rate but still had good games. Go back to the time where the DS still had the Game Boy Advance slot, so you could play Game Boy Advance games, but also the Nintendo DS games. That battery in that thing, I'm not kidding. I'm actually not, I swear, is the same size as what's in a Joy-Con. Maybe 2 Joy-Cons at most, right? And you're still getting your 2-3 hours of entertainment, but maybe you're not getting solid entertainment because, you have to save, quit, and shut your system off and go do a thing because, the fire's going out, it needs firewood or whatever. What you're trying to avoid is that hour or two where you're stuck alone and you're staring off into space thinking about, why am I here? What the F am I doing? I need something to do. I could be back at home watching TV. Those are the thoughts that you're trying to avoid when you do stuff like throwing spears, carving shuriken out of wood, just doing stupid stuff to keep yourself busy. Or making primitive tools like, whatever. Because out there when you're really out there by yourself and you don't have anyone to rely on, and you don't have any cell service, and you can't make it back easily, and you're just trying to wait for someone who you left, and this is the most important part when you go out and do this stuff, leave a detailed description of where you're going, your route to get there, and the day that you intend to be back home. Okay, so that way people know where to go to get you. Always have a backup extraction plan. And generally speaking, as long as someone knows where you are, they will come find you eventually. Or it could just be some random person, you never know. But the point is to have that sort of safety plan set up. In fact, I don't set foot on a plane without telling about 3 or 4 different family members and friends, this is where I'm going. I intend to be back on this day. I will call you if anything changes. And if you don't hear from me by, say, 3 days from now, then send search and rescue. Because something went wrong, or I forgot. In which case my brain is starting to slip and I need other types of help, right? And there is no shame in that. It is very easy to forget to call someone, okay? Very easy. But the point is to have that safety net before you go out and do these things. Like, I go hunting, even if I'm just going across the road into the field. I say exactly, I'm going hunting across the road in the field. I'll be back by noon, and if you don't hear from me by then, you know, give it another hour or two and come looking. Because it means something's gone wrong. I gotta clean the metal ones. But actually, the metal bottles are for bug out bags. They're not for day to day consumption. Um, but yeah, the reason I can say gaming has its place is because you're gonna have moments where you're not doing anything, and there are some people out there who are gonna say, "Oh, but you could read your Bible and all that stuff," and I'm like, "It's a book. It has a front cover and a back. It has a beginning and an end." Um, I could read through that book 10 times, and probably about the second time I've read through it, I basically have everything memorized in it, at least the core points, to the point where I am not going to want to reread it again. Okay? Lord of the Rings, same thing happened with Lord of the Rings. My mom bought me the thick 3 volume copy of the movie edition that had the black cover and had the little book placeholder thing, the covers that folded in on themselves. I wore that book out reading it because I enjoyed reading it. Reading the Bible, which in my mind is effectively human history over and over and over again, is something that I've done since I was about 7 years old. And it started with a children's Bible. Realistically speaking, I don't need to read that book again. Well, actually, I do, because there's a lot of things in it that I'm relearning because adulthood kind of did a thing for 10, 12 years. But, um, that's not the point. The point is that there's only so many times you can study and read a book, okay? If you're a preacher, you know this better than anyone else, because you know that preaching a sermon requires inspiration from above, because there's no way you, as a normal person, if you were like me or the rest of the world, could come up with a different sermon every Sunday for the rest of your life, preaching the same message over and over again in a different way. And you know what I mean. Okay? And this is coming from someone who's not even qualified for leadership. Even I understand that. According to the Bible, I'm not qualified for leadership, we'll put it that way. Um, there's about 4 of the 10, basically 10 to 12 tenets of leadership in the Bible that I do not, that make me instantly unqualified. I have kids out of marriage. I've done the deed outside of being married, obviously. Therefore, um, you know, I've got other things in my life that I've done that make me not qualified under the biblical principles of leadership. Therefore, I'm not exactly a quote unquote religious authority. But there is only one thing more dangerous than staying inside because there's a lion outside. Going outside because you're bored and doing something stupid. Okay. So, yes, if I have the opportunity to go outside and do something exciting and fun with a specific purpose in mind, then I would say that's a good thing. If I'm going outside and just piddle dicking around and doing stuff out of boredom, then the risk of me doing something really stupid to hurt myself is kind of, it's there, right? and it's actually more realistic than it is fantasy at that point, because if you're like, okay, splitting wood, I get bored with just swinging the axe the same way, so I try splitting wood in different ways just to mix things up. But guess what? Eventually, at some point, because I decided splitting wood sideways was a good idea, there's a risk that that golf style swing is going to bring that friggin' axe head into my leg. And the risk of doing that is a lot higher if I do the traditional leg spread over the head swing. So, yeah. Or have a better stance that I can more control the axe. Because eventually, you're going to mess up and you're going to feel it and you're going to have to go to the hospital. And no offense, but I hate hospitals. But if you're out in the woods by yourself, that hospital might be quite some time away from your current location, and you could bleed out. I'm not sparing you know, any feelings when I say this stuff. You could literally bleed out. And that is why, and is connected to why pick a platform, because now I don't have to record myself doing stupid stunts and stuff out in the woods for no reason, without the right kind of backup, without people knowing that I'm going out there. Now I have the encouragement to get the right equipment, to do this the right way without half bollocksing it up and, you know, hurting myself or whatever on accident because I'm out in the woods doing stuff like an idiot. Now I can actually focus on the task at hand, knowing that the stuff that I'm actually focusing on is going to matter, even if it is just a little bit. So, to kind of specify the amount that I'm actually getting, it was just 2 cents in revenue. So, Rumble gave me their 2 cents basically. But it does show upward momentum. It's the first step in upward momentum, but I will take the wins where I can get them. Okay? I'm not going to look at that as a small thing. I'm going to look at it as a thumbs up positive. Now let's do more. Let's make it better. Let's make more. Okay? Which the making it better was always a thing anyway. It's just more of a thing now. So, expect new content, expect better content moving forward, and I will see you